Good afternoon, LinkedIn friends, Value First Nation. Welcome to episode number 2 of Value First Revenue with Zach Hussion. Two's a streak, right? Two's a habit or something like that, Zach?
I think we need like maybe 12 more to be a habit, but I'm going to go with 2 as a habit because it makes me feel better. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Thank you for joining today. How was your week?
It's going well. It's going well. Just kind of getting things. I feel like I'm just getting started. I don't know. It took a little while to get the week warmed up. Maybe it's because I took Monday off for a little charity golf tournament there, which actually, funny story, it was a charity golf tournament for GGs, which is an organization for folks who have Down syndrome. And we were just finishing up, kind of going around the turn, and there was a little putting competition, and one of the kids there walked up to me and said, "I really love your bracelet." And I was wearing one of these HubSpot
Nice.
bracelets from Profoundly, from their booth at Inbound. And I said, "Well, now it's yours," because I got 10 more of them on my desk here from the conference. And so there's a HubSpot bracelet floating around somewhere at GG's now, which
There we go. And I'm sure you logged that impression in the CRM, right?
Yep. It's going to be part of my attribution reporting here. I'm going to see how much business that gets me over the next 6 months.
Forecasting 10 years out, you might
Mm-hmm.
get some business from this.
You never know. You never know. It's all about just being where your potential audience may be. Maybe GG's needs help with HubSpot one day.
Yeah, yeah. Or maybe it gets taken home and then, there's professionals in the house. Like, that's what I'm loving right now. I think AI, which is what we're going to talk about today a little bit, of course. It's, man, it has a tendency to kind of force us away from the admin right now, because it's like, oh, I don't like doing this thing, data entry, like, and creation of properties, something that's feels like I'm not adding a lot of value as a human by having to do this thing right now. Like, maybe AI can do that. So let me try that. And then it works. And now you're like, okay, I've got extra 15 minutes. Let me call up this person. Let me text this person. Let me jump on LinkedIn or jump on a webinar, engage with some people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the more we do that, there's this serendipity. I would just look forward to, like, people not having any choice but to accept that, because so much more is going to be immeasurable. And when you can feel it around, like Zach and I were talking a lot last week as we got started, it's very hard to put into words, and especially into numbers, what happens when you just start showing up in places and bringing value, creating value, adding value. You start to get sometimes digital notifications, like
Mm-hmm.
notifications on LinkedIn, people messaging you, this random email that happens to align with this thing. Oh, show up at a webinar. They mentioned they saw your thing on LinkedIn. Um, all these signals start popping up that we're going to rely on AI on to, if we want to quantify it in any way. Like, AI is our only hope in that department, but it's where the word vibe comes to mind, that, or gut reaction or intuition. This is not the first rodeo for us
Mm-hmm.
trying to vibe things into existence, especially in sales, where you just go with your gut all the time. Um, uh, so anything can happen, right? Like, if you're dealing with other humans, just go be with other humans and make some magic happen.
Yeah, get back to the basics of just doing good. All right, I got the good hat on here, but yeah, just do good stuff. And AI is a tool that should allow you to go do more good stuff. And I mean, that sounds just so intelligently said there, but it's really just you leverage the tools to go do the busy work, go do the admin tasks, to take your ideas and help bring them to life faster. and then use that time to go be more human, right? I think is kind of what you're getting at. Yeah, and we've talked about how AI kind of lowers the bar in terms of how much effort goes into having, to put into making these things, right? To making content and being helpful, or doing your prospecting, or like pick a part of the sales process, right? Which we'll get into more of those as we go. But if it wasn't for those tools, I would probably be less likely to be on this show right now.
Right.
And let's say that I was on the show, then it'd be like just an unbearable task for us to take the content that we're creating and then chop it up and remix it and do other things with it. And so, there's a lot less effort that's needed to go into these things, which makes it a lot easier. So now we can focus on time to do this stuff, and we're really adding value. So it's just like sales. Where can I find areas of the sales process that used to bog me down? Now I can kind of get rid of those. Those aren't problems anymore. What am I going to do with my newfound time? Am I going to go out to lunch with my clients more? Am I going to spend more time, driving around to meetings? Maybe not. But I think, where you're getting at is that, like, having this presence on LinkedIn or other channels where your audience lives is really where you should be spending your time. And if I look back at some of the folks who have done a good job of this before this became, kind of a thing, right? I think that we're all, like, you have some early adopters, like you were certainly, I think, a little bit ahead of the curve, but there are many others that were even way further ahead than you, right? And I think back on, like, when I had a need for something before I started Hush, I need a new website, for example. And I never would have thought that I would have found a vendor, or maybe, they didn't turn into being the vendor, but we had several conversations. We had a quote, and it was because I saw them. They were present on LinkedIn all the time.
Yeah.
I've seen another agency founder here in the Rochester area, this girl, Maureen. She has done a really awesome job, I think, with her content. She's just consistently showing up in my feed. And, if I look kind of back, watching her business grow over the last several years, I think it's really exponentially taken off. And I can feel the vibe, right, as you said, of what she's doing. And so that's what we're trying to do here. And that's what we're trying to help our clients to do as well, is just kind of realize that there's a shift, and it's just it's a lot easier to kind of create this content and go about things this way, kind of that old, we'll call it the old fashioned inbound methodology here in a way, than it is to go download a list of 1,000 names and start hitting the phones.
Yeah.
Did I just give you too much to unpack there? It's
Well, it seems pretty straightforward. Yet the topic you brought up today, people aren't using the tools in this way.
Yeah.
So what are you seeing out there?
I think there are so many different types of AI tools out there, right? So when I look at the tools that I think a lot of sales reps may be quicker to adopt, would be some of those, like, productivity hacks, right? Take this recording from a discovery call and turn it into a scope of work or a proposal. Help me unpack, the client's needs, right? Help me prepare for this meeting. Take this thing and load it into ChatGPT and give me some output, right? I think that's where a lot of people are starting, but where they become, I think, more resistant is when, I think there's kind of two sides to this. It's like, from the sales rep's perspective, are they comfortable with some AI agent representing them? Is my integrity going to be compromised? So that's a very important thing for sales reps, right? Your integrity means a lot. If you have a name of being a snake oil salesman, then it gets around. But if you have a name for being somebody who's a trusted source, and they really are honest, and an all around good person to work with, that travels as well. So I think like there's the fear of, is this AI thing going to reflect really me? And also like the fact that me being human and my personality, my unique experiences is what I think also differentiates me. So it's not just what my company sells, it's also like who you're buying it from. And then I think on the other side, it's, as a consumer, yes, we want to control more of the buying cycle, right? So we're 60, 70, maybe 80+% into the buying process before we want to talk to a sales rep. But that last 20%, I would be scared to replace that with like a sales agent yet. And I think most people would be hesitant to really kind of work that way yet. And then I also see a lot of stuff happening now, even like, way early in the buying cycle, right? Early in the customer experience, where, I'm going to someone's website and they have what's clearly an AI avatar or, image. It's like trying to be human, and get me to take an action. It's like, you're not fooling anybody here. I don't know if you'll ever really truly get to that point. I mean, it's getting closer and closer and closer, but it's too perfect. You better sprinkle in a lot of
Right.
ums and
Yeah.
likes and pauses and a sneeze or a cough every once in a while. It's just people. It doesn't take much for like the antennas to go off to say this isn't real.
Yeah.
And I think that there's, people are adopting to the tools slower than the tools are evolving themselves. So it's like psychologically, we're not there yet. Even though the tools can do a lot of these really awesome things, it's just like, I'm not really ready to give up that part of humanity yet. Hopefully, well, there's always going to be that part, right? That I'm not going to be putting my foot in my mouth in 10 years and saying, well, I'd lost that bet. The robot overlords have completely taken
Yeah.
over.
Well, we won't have to work by then, so it'll be good. Everything
um,
will be a hobby, no matter
yeah,
what choice you make. But
yeah.
I think like it's. I remember when like inbound 24 and the like prospecting agent was a big deal,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
And what didn't make sense to me and still doesn't, like you get to this realization real quick when you break it down to trying to build relationships and trust. And most people know how important the first impression is.
Hmm.
And you're telling me that you're going to create an agent to go out and find people,
Yep.
and that's going to be their first interaction with you,
Oh, I love that you're going down this path right now
right?
because I've done some testing on this.
Like,
Nothing
why,
formal, but
if
some
you had, let's say
gut.
you know that there's 10 touch points involved in
Yep.
the process, I guarantee you could find other touch points like sending a quote, like answering common questions. Like the closer you get to the helping buy part, like we all know, we're all aligned, trust has been built. We just need to help you make the transaction. The part where the salesperson really thinks like they're the reason that the deal is closing, but really like everything else that has happened up to
It's like
this
it should
point.
be flipped around, right? It's like,
Right.
yeah, I
Like,
want the
why wouldn't you
person to
pick
help
those
establish.
spots
Yeah.
so that you could show up for the first impression that
Yeah.
as human to humans? Like we've known
Yeah.
that forever.
Yeah. So, I mean, I remember when the prospecting agent came out, and my first reaction was, shit. Like, this is going to make it way too easy for sales reps to be lazy. And it's like this shiny thing, like, oh, like, you mean I can click a couple buttons and it's going to do all that prospecting work that I hate? Like, nobody love, like, there are some few people who probably, love doing it, right? But for the most part, prospecting is like a hard task for most sales reps, right? It's just, you have to create those habits, and it's easy to fall out of them, and then your pipeline dries up. But you're right. It's like it's such an important part of the process to establish trust early on in that trust curve. And so when it came out, I'm like, oh boy, it's like this is going to be really hard to nail this thing. And I didn't really dabble with it much at first. I think the beta was not even like for everyone to get into. I think it took a little while to even get into it. And now I have it. I've been using it because it's like you have to understand how the products work so you can speak intelligently about them and either recommend them or tell people to maybe tread lightly. And
Thank you for taking that part seriously, Zach.
yeah, I mean, and immediately my reaction to and listen, this isn't a knock against HubSpot. I love them, but they're not perfect. Immediately, my gut feeling was like, I don't like this. I don't like the way that this feels. Even if I did a really, really awesome job training my agent, it still doesn't have those Zachisms, doesn't have that personality, which I will say is a difference maker. I had a conversation with someone the other day. It actually came through profoundly. And I'd said to her, what have you talked to anyone else about this project? She said, yeah, I've had about 4 or 5 other conversations. So what made you keep talking to people? Why are you talking to me? What stood out about me that made you want to talk to me? I'm always looking for feedback. And she said, well, your response was just super like human, very personable. You just seemed like a normal kind of guy who like I could relate to. And you didn't come at it with this like super formal. You're just like, wow, that sucks. Like I've been there before. How can we help? And now here we are talking for 30 minutes, and she's like, I like you. You seem like a guy that we could work with, and that's really important to us. In our company cultures that we pick vendors that we can form relationships with and build trust with, and like there's more to it than just like purchase order, invoice kind of a relationship. And that really resonated with me a lot. And I think I'm going to keep building on that. And we've talked about this a little bit as well. And so it's like, okay, it's really hard to make a prospecting agent do that.
Right.
And there are so many variables involved. It's like the prospecting agent is just like one channel email, and you get 3 to 5 emails, and then it takes some signals, and it does. I mean, the beautiful thing about it is it does a lot of the research for you. So like
Yes.
that's the part that I really like. Like go do
Right.
the research on the contact, go do the research on the company, tell me about their products and services and their recent acquisitions or mergers or rounds of financing or blah blah blah, right? Help me add some context and make it more personal. It's like make it look like I did my research, which I'm doing. But then let me take over and wire my brain back into HubSpot and my emails and my LinkedIn messages and some phone calls and whatever all those different touch points that you have to there's no shortcut in sales.
Right.
It's there even less so today than there was 10 years ago or 20 years ago. Like you have to kind of get back to like the basics of like this is really what sales is about. It's adding value. It's like being a thought leader. It's like being somebody, a trusted advisor. And I found that, yeah, I've gotten some like emails opened and I've seen a couple clicks here and there, but I kind of saw enough from my experiment to say I'm going back to recommending sequences, right? Over prospecting agent. And that allows you to have like some like sprinkle in the LinkedIn touches and then the call, like all the things that you have to do, and it does it in a nice organized way. And now you can use dynamic sequences so you can get some more kind of responses back from that and branch off in different directions. But yeah, I think that it didn't take long to feel the ick from some of those, and there's other tools out there that kind of give you the same feelings. But yeah,
I think
I
like what we're realizing,
it was like
and
a little bit.
you naturally went there. HubSpot at some point changed the tune to focus on the research part,
Yeah.
right? Because that's the part that actually takes a long time. And if we look at any of these tools as either or, like AI or human,
Yeah.
like you're usually on the wrong path, right? And because what's enabling there, the scale that's enabled But it requires this mindset of working with a partner that you've never worked with before. The research is there. You could change the whole damn email, right? Like it does, you don't have to, but the knowledge that you get from doing the research and it brings you all the links.
Mm-hmm.
And now, like, just you're not starting from the blank page. Like,
Yeah.
that's so powerful.
Yeah,
I
you have a
think,
good baseline.
right?
I still think that, there's a lot of value in what we used to do, what we've been doing, and I think that I will still do to a certain extent is just go to their website, because that website tells you a lot about where they are in their journey. Um and until the agents get smart enough to tell me, like, if they have conversion path optimization, in their in their strategy, or do they just have a contact form and an RFQ form? Right, like, are they leveraging content? So it's like there are all these other things about their website that I would look at that would tell me a story about the state of their revenue operations there,
Right.
that you can't get just from what HubSpot gives you today.
Yeah.
So I think like it's a great baseline. It does a lot of the work for you, but I still think that it's necessary to take some of those steps and just dive a little bit deeper. Just like when you
Yes.
when you set up an email template or a sequence for someone, it's like you don't just like click add send. It's just a little tweak. Just do a little, just that one little extra step is what
Right.
makes the difference between getting sent to the spam box or junk folder. And that's the other thing too. People have super short attention spans and so little patience and so many options nowadays that it like if you're gonna do this and you're gonna take the shortcut, just know that most of the people you do this to are going to unsubscribe. They're going to block you. It's like, it's it's harder now than more than ever to get through to someone's inbox, let alone doing something where it's just complete, robotics.
Yeah. And I think a big part of any of these tools, like, I'm starting to fall in love with the concept of like conversion is happening together now. Like, it's a lot harder to get conversion like without you, or when you create the signals, right? Because this is the kind of thing like with all these tools, it's figuring out, okay, is it getting me 10% of the way there, 50% of the way there, 90%? Very rarely is it going to be 100%,
Hmm.
right? But the situation we described where it's like you get to this point where you got to get the thing done. And in a perfect world, you would have went and debriefed the website. You would go check out their LinkedIn.
Sure.
You would go do all this, right? Whatever amount, even if it's 10%, maybe that's the 10% you fill with going to check out their latest post and then bringing that in. And just that process of like liking and then checking out their profile, they're getting those notifications.
Hmm.
And now you show up in the inbox with a more relevant, and the message is more relevant. It's more human. It happened alongside these other notifications. So you're less likely to be a surprise. They're more likely to open you.
Hmm.
All these things start to add up to where if you think about it from a very you know the point of absolutes, like you just can't, like, this is what it means, this is what loop marketing is all about, like, by the way, is trying to be in all the places because they're in all the places,
Hmm.
right? And what's interesting, you mentioned the controlled buying process, right? It's only getting more and more, but what we know is that once at any point they decide they want to talk to a human, they want to talk to them and they want to talk to them as soon as possible,
Hmm.
right?
Oh
And if
yeah.
there's a human ready to do that, they win most of the business,
Yep.
right?
Oh, I mean, how many times have you gone to as a consumer, right? Let's just throw the whole B2B thing out the window because it's still it's the same, right? We're all consumers here, whether you're in the B2B or B2C world. It's like you're looking for an answer to something and you can't get it. I want to talk to somebody. I can't talk to them. Goodbye. I'm on to the next recommendation from ChatGPT, or I'm on the next blue link from Google search to say, all right, who's next in line? Because I have 20 options to choose from now. Like, there's a whole bunch of people I can talk to who got 4-star ratings and above. So it's the same thing in the business world. I mean, maybe not as much so, because you may not have as many options, let's say. And sometimes you're kind of forced to go down certain paths depending on, like, oh, well, they have this certification, so we have to use them. We can't use this other person. So some other
Right.
things come to play. But yeah, real quick way to just turn people away is just not being available to answer questions, really.
Yeah.
However,
And
whatever format that is, and especially not having somebody human at some point to just say, hey, what's up, Chris? I heard you have a problem. Tell me about it.
yep. And like, even in the scenario that you described before, where it's like, man, the key, it's not about getting help with HubSpot as much as it is, we want to work with somebody we like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And we're seeing that over and over. Like, the data is proving that unprofoundly. It's not, price is like so far
Yeah.
from like the number one factor of
Mhm.
whether like things convert on the marketplace. It is who's showing up, how are they showing up, and how quickly.
Yeah.
Because
I forgot
people
what.
are looking for trust.
Yeah, I've been spouting this statistic off to every sales team I think I've ever worked with. I don't know exactly what the number is. Something like 100 times more likely to end up winning a deal if you're the first to respond to their request. It was something, something astronomical. Like, the number was like so high, it was almost like unbelievable. And then it's like, no, this is real. And then people still were like, yeah, we'll table that for another day. And it's like, no, like, when I say follow up on this lead within the first 5 minutes, it's like, you're the first to respond, you're the first to care, you show you're on top of your shit. It's like that people they recognize that, and it gives, so it's like, it's just like everything else. Be the first to answer the question, and you're now you have a seat at the table.
Yeah.
And that's all you're trying to get, is a seat at the table. Because now the next step is there alignment? And you talk
Right.
about that, like, people like working with people that they like their
Right.
personalities. So it works both ways too. We're hoping that we're going to like the client as well. And there's
Right.
nothing worse than having two people on a call where either you both don't like each other, or one person is kind of doesn't like, it's like, and at the end of the day, we're all trying to run a business here. And sometimes you work with people that, you have to. I get it. But isn't it so much better when everybody actually shows up to a call and they're like, hey, Chris, how was your week? Let's jump into our agenda. Let's talk about how we're going to go and really make some really positive changes here in the organization, add a bunch of value. Let's fix things. Let's stop grinding everyone's gears over here and actually, get some work done. And then you walk away from the meeting, you've actually gotten some stuff done. And then you feel confident that when you show up next week, people have done their homework too. There's nothing worse than, just continuing to pull teeth and feel like, you care about somebody's business more than they care about it. And like I said, it works both ways. So it's like, the first step is get a seat at the table. The next step is there alignment?
Right.
It's like, if I show up on a call with a CEO and I can tell that he doesn't like the fact that I'm wearing a hat.
I
Like, this is
love
a
that
test,
conversation
right?
so much.
It's like, okay, don't
And
say
that's
another thing. We're not going to work together
right. And
because
that's
you care
okay.
about what's
Like,
on my
there's
head,
lots of
not what's in my
people.
head. And I've said that a million times, and that's okay. But there's not
Right.
alignment here in how I work and how you work.
Yeah.
If you don't like me being brutally honest and saying, why did you do that? That was dumb. Please, next time, call me. You just created a whole big mess for yourself. Like, if you don't want that kind of, like, friendly kind of banter, just be like, oh no, Chris, why did you do that? Naughty, naughty. and then we can kind of like laugh and say, you really did just create like 10 more hours of work here. So like next time, don't do that.
Yeah.
I just feel like if you can have a little fun with it and you can build that relationship, it just makes things work so much better. And then usually it's like they actually listen to you too. They're like, I'm going to call Zach before I do this thing and touch this button. Because,
like that's what you miss, that part. Like when you let AI tools, or, I mean, this is not new, telemarketing agencies, like all of the ways where it was like, I'm going to have somebody else do something on my behalf, and then we're going to qualify the hell out of you once we actually get on a call. And surprise, we don't build trusted relationships that way.
Yeah.
Whereas like both those situations, and what we're trying to create the space as we talk about this stuff, like, okay, I know a guy that likes to suit up and he never wears hats. I'll introduce you, right? Like, or RFP processes and people that have strict structure to follow, not my jam, but I can definitely direct you in the right way.
Right.
People who people is, I know
I'm losing you.
they get it. And, people have built businesses. They're like, all right, we're going to do this template and this template, and just let me know what you need, and we will knock this RFP process out of the park. Right. And there's a space for that. Right. And it's proving out. Right. But that's been the challenge of getting the right kind of HubSpot help so far. And it shouldn't be surprising, because that's like the know, like, and trust. Right. I think what we're seeing, and it's pervasive across SaaS, like, I think it's interesting to see it play out in SaaS, because there is 17,000, apps, and there's so much competition. Very hard to find blue ocean. Whereas in manufacturing, we got to settle a lot, right? So trying to bring this message over there is always interesting, but you just find that spot where it's like, tell us about the last purchasing experience you had, right? Why aren't we offering experience like that? Changing the tone, say, like, this thing, something on, say, now this team who's closest to the customer has an extra hour. Like, what are they doing with that hour? Like, and you start getting some ideas that start coming out and creating this space. Like, that's what we'll only find balance with the AI tools if you know what you're going to do with all the time that you're saving. Right.
Yeah, well, I think you have to plan a little bit with, well, what should I be doing with this time? What can I be doing with this time? And I think there's something to be said for slowing down a little bit, taking a second to, maybe just kind of let an idea marinate. I mean, how often do you find yourself when you're sitting in like a corporate office with the ability to just kind of put your feet up on your desk and just kind of like, let me just think about this a little bit for a while. And let me just take 15 minutes and really let me just think on this thing. And it's like, you can't, because in that 15 minutes, either somebody's stopping by your desk to tell you about like their, some cool thing that their kid got an award for that you don't care about, or your boss is asking you for something, or you have an employee asking you for something, or you got 6 million distractions because you got all your chats and everything. It's like you don't have a great environment to go do that, and it's not really encouraged either.
Right.
Like, people don't, they would look at you and say, what are you doing? You don't look busy. I said, well, you can't see what's going on inside my brain right now. I'm not hooked up to a monitor so you can, check my brainwave activity. Actually, it's not a bad idea. They should start hooking up probes to people and say like, hey, listen, if you're hitting the red all day long, it's like, go home early. But these other guys
Yeah,
over here,
we're not far away from
yeah, it's
all
like
these
might
wearables.
as well hook it up to a bologna sandwich. They're doing about as much work as that guy. And so I think there's something to be said for just taking that time to be a little more, strategic and creative and doing those things that you always wished you had more time to do
Yes.
versus I'm just going to try to just churn out so much more work in this 15 minutes. And it doesn't
Yeah.
always have to be about throughput. Um, it's like quality over quantity still, I think, uh, is the way to go. And it's like, how do you get leadership to buy into that? Because it's like so many people, it's like when a leader walks by their desk, if they don't look busy, they're like, oh crap.
Yep.
There's still a lot of that command and conquer, rule by fear. And
Is
wouldn't it be
the
great if we just measured people by other things than just like how busy they looked?
yeah, KA KPI, and I was as I was building out like what we're planning to do with this series, like I've made some, choices to stay away from traditional like silos of marketing and sales. And so I don't have a value first marketing, I have value first sales. Don't even have revenue. Um, and so I'm like, okay, which of these 10 pillars am I going to use to help build this out? Right. Because I've got so much foundation built with, the messaging and what we like, how do we get to easily talking to the things that we're talking about right now in some kind of orderly way? And I put it in leadership, in the value first leadership pillar, because guess who's the only group that could make change happen on the sales front line? It's leadership. Like, because there's KPIs type
Well,
like
I mean, not every department.
identities. Well, yeah, that's fair. But I
It's
think
so
there's
much
like,
harder to push it up than it is to, than to try to get buy-in and then have it go from the top down.
right. For that's the one play way. And like,
I think we're having some bandwidth issues.
yeah, it's
Am I cutting out? Because you're cutting out a lot right now.
it's me. Um, so we'll do our best to keep going.
That's okay.
Uh,
I'll just make sure I add a few more pauses in between my
yeah,
um, my
and
rants.
the recording will come out much better, hopefully. But like, sales is the one place where any amount of change can directly impact somebody's income, right?
Sure. Okay.
And that's where, unless you're tying it like to ultimately these things that are like, it's in, at least in my experience, like KPIs, commissions, like all that stuff, like you have to rethink a lot uh, uh, in terms of like the culture that has been created there, the identity of people that I close, like that's what I do, right? Those guys, right? And you say like, okay, maybe you're just a helper. You're just trying to help people buy. And it's like, oh, well, that's not. If I'm splitting commission with others, that means I'm not the hero like anymore. And there's so many interpersonal things that start to show up. And that's where, unless you have leadership team saying, okay, that's fine, I can help you find another job, like where you can still be that person. It's just we've decided to do things differently. And it's rare that I found like the truth that's recorded.
Are you there? Okay, sorry. It just cut out again. I didn't know if you know, you forgot to put another quarter in the machine or something.
That's what it's feeling like. Gotta double check the Xfinity bill here.
Yeah, right.
Um,
Yeah, but I think what you're kind of getting at is just, talking about how um it's like the KPIs, the commission plans, the incentives, right? It's all tied to revenue, like your personal revenue, right? You have in sales, it's the one position where you have, the harder you work, the smarter you work, the more money you can make, and um, it's really easy to have like KPIs thrown in the mix that you may feel don't really help you get to those numbers, but the management team does, and so it's like, but you still have to do them, um, and then it's kind of like, well, are we incentivizing the right behaviors? There's definitely a lot broken in that whole system that I think we'll tear into in more episodes. Um, but it's like, how do you get alignment between leadership and the sales team to say, like, we just want to make sure that you guys are going out there, and number one priority is like revenue, right? So like that's we're going to measure you on revenue. And like, what if that was it? It's just, we're paying you and we're incentivizing you to go bring in revenue, and we're going to give you like best practices, we're going to give you guidelines, we're going to help you with all the right tools to go do it, and we understand every sales rep's going to have a slightly different style or flavor. Like, how do we make that work? um and just because it should be just like that simple. I feel like we have a whole episode to unpack on just that alone. So I don't want to go like too deep down the commission KPI kind of sales incentive route, but I think you were trying to get at something else too but you were cutting out, and I think I missed part of it.
I think I'm cutting out again.
No, I got you right now.
Okay. I'm staring this like, the bandwidth symbol in the way. It's like got nothing. Uh, talk about anxiety.
Well,
Um,
geez, maybe you should tell your agent to stop running the other webinar, the other podcast show that
yeah,
you're
if
doing
only.
simultaneously. I don't
Not
even know what,
they.
what Chris I'm talking to right now. Is this the real one or the fake
Right.
one? Is it the real
Yeah.
one? Okay.
This is the real one. Um, yeah, just the culture. Like it's hard. Like this is so many organizations start from that place of sales,
Hmm.
right? Like we have to have a product and we have to be able to sell it to people. But honestly, like we don't even need to be able to convince people of a very sales motion. And when the whole sales department and sales culture is built from that, right? We're asking them to do it completely differently when we're saying, "Oh, it's a team sale now. Oh, everybody gets a piece." So when you can, and so what we see the mistakes are like you try to throw all these KPIs to help everybody understand what their role is. When if you could just bring it back and say revenue, like that's what we're trying to do here. I think the key is this is how we as an organization get revenue, right? It's not by trying to pressure people, not by trying to get them to do things they don't want to do. It's by building connection, building relationships,
Hmm.
building trust
Yeah.
across teams so that handoffs are easier.
Yeah.
Like everything gets easier because we're not forced to, hit a KPI that's supposed to lead to,
Yeah.
closed,
Well, it's funny.
right?
I had lunch with someone that I know recently, and one of their KPIs is number of meetings per month, and that's tied to their commission as well. So he needed one more meeting to hit his quota. which both of us laughed at as a stupid metric to really, because how easy was it to hit quota? Hey, buddy, you want to go out to lunch? And it didn't add any value to the organization. It actually cost them money, right? Because now they're paying for the bill for lunch. I mean, I got the free lunch out of it, so it's great. But we both sat there and ate our lunch and said, "This is so dumb." I mean, I'm not saying ignore the KPIs. I'm not saying don't track the metrics. Like they're great um, indicators of things to come. If you start noticing that things are slipping in one direction or trending upwards in another direction, like those are good signals. You should be paying attention to those things. But you should spend less time bitching at your sales team for not making their 80 calls this month and focusing more on where are we at in terms of closing the revenue gap. What do we have to focus on today to get there? And then what are all these things that we have to do to support our sales team so they can go close and do what they do best? So it's like we need to make sure that we're coming up with content that they can share with their prospects and their clients, right? And tools and resources. And I mean, could probably spend more time kind of peeling this back, but it's like we should be enabling the team to go sell and spending all of our efforts on just supporting them and holding them up so they can go do the sales,
Right.
And then having like sales reps in various roles that are specialized in, I think, doing one thing and one thing well. It's like if you ask a salesperson to be the person who does the costing, the quoting, they're doing the account management, they're doing the customer service, like when there are, quality issues and returns that are needed. They're, doing all the prospecting and the closing and and it's like they're doing every role that you should have maybe three different roles. It's like, okay, you're not even a jack of all trades. You're just a jack. It's like you can't do anything really well. And I've been in that seat before. I've seen other people in that seat. So it's like, have the team that's there to support the sales reps. So you have your operational people, you have your marketing team, of course, you have your, sales development reps and BDRs and things. So it's like when you actually have the person who's going to close the deal and doing that real, like the one who's really impacting the revenue the most is like, that's what they should be doing all day. They should have meetings on their calendar set up. They show up every day. And it's like, I get to go just do what I do well every day, which is just to kick ass and close deals and sell and be helpful, right? And add value versus having to do all this other stuff where I can only do this much value.
Yeah. Yep. Well, it looks like we need next week to have this compensation conversation. Or else we're going to run into it every single week.
We're going to make so many enemies.
Or
maybe a couple friends. I'd love to
Yeah.
pick, I have an old mentor. I'd love to pick his brain about this conversation because he years ago said, we should just get rid of commissions. And so I want to talk about that too. I want to play devil's advocate for, well, what if we just had a commissionless sales team?
Yeah.
Like take commissions out of it completely. And
Yes. So our challenge is we want to have a meaningful but also actionable conversation next week about what life could be like. And I think we can do that. A big part of value first is like, how do you get out of the way of value flow? And one of the ways is getting rid of these incentivization systems that have been proven not to be the best way to get people to do things you want them to do.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Oh yeah. We could probably tell some good war stories.
Yeah. Well, it was another fun day, another meaningful day, I think, for Value First Revenue. Hopefully by next week I'll get the Xfinity bandwidth sorted out.
That's okay. Don't forget to feed the hamster to spin the wheel.
Yes, exactly. Till next time, my man.
Yeah. classic. The bandwidth cut out right as you were closing here. So I think we'll probably wrap it up there, bud.
See you next time.
All right, man. I'll see you later. Thanks again.